There comes a point in your life where you start realizing something. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not your time, your energy, and your explanations. If you spent most of your life being open, available, and understanding, this shift can feel harsh at first, almost like you're becoming cold. But you're not. You're becoming discerning, and there's a difference. For a long time, you might have believed that being a good person meant always being accessible, always replying, explaining, and giving people another chance. You tell yourself, maybe they didn't mean it like that, or maybe they're just going through something. And that feeling comes from empathy. But sometimes it comes from overextending yourself to people who never intended to handle you with care. Not everyone who can reach you should reach you. That's something growth teaches you. When someone has direct access to you, they have access to your mood, your focus, and your peace. And when they're careless with it, you feel the cost. That's when you start to notice the patterns. There was a time I ignored those patterns. Looking back now, I can see how much I tolerated simply because I valued loyalty so deeply. I kept giving people the benefit of the doubt, even when something inside me already knew the dynamic wasn't healthy. I thought patience and understanding would eventually be met with the same respect in return. But some people don't interpret your patience as kindness. They interpret it as access they can take for granted. A friendship, I believed, would last through anything. The kind where you think, no matter what happens in life, this person is solid. Until one day you realise loyalty was one-sided. That when things became inconvenient or when you needed the same support you'd given so freely, they stepped back. It's a feeling that sinks in deep. And that shift teaches you something painful but powerful. Access is a privilege. They only reach out when they need something. They disappear when you need support. They subtly compete instead of celebrating you. They drain you but call it connection. And you begin to understand that protecting your energy is mature and necessary. There's a version of you that used to think, if I'm kind and loyal enough, people will eventually treat me the same. But the truth is, you can't love someone into emotional maturity. You can't explain someone into respect, and you can't prove your worth into being valued. The same lesson shows up in relationships too. When you give everything to someone who struggles to take accountability, you communicate, you understand their wounds, and you explain yourself with patience. But instead of reflection, you're met with deflection. Instead of responsibility, you're met with blame. Instead of repair, you're met with distance. At some point, you realise you're fighting for emotional depth with someone who survives by avoiding it. That's when the shift happens. Not with drama, just a decision to step back. And stepping back isn't as dramatic as people imagine. It's simply the moment where you realise you've already explained yourself enough, where you've already given the benefit of the doubt more times than the situation deserved. And instead of explaining again, you just protect your peace. Sometimes people expect you to cling tighter when they pull away. They expect you to chase, explain more, and prove your loyalty. So once you realise your worth, you don't beg for space in someone's life. And something else becomes clearer too. Not everyone deserves a final explanation. The people who truly care about you usually reflect on their behaviour long before it reaches that point. But the ones who repeatedly cross boundaries already know what they've done. Explaining it again rarely creates understanding. It only drains you more. You don't wait to be cut off. You just step back first to protect yourself. Because access to your internal world, your heart, and your vulnerability, that is sacred. And sacred things are not handed out to people who misuse them. Because protecting yourself is about preventing future damage. When someone has already shown you how easily they can disrupt your peace, distance becomes an act of self-preservation. Not every door needs a long goodbye. Some just need to quietly close. You limit access and availability, not out of spite and not out of ego, but out of self-respect. The people who deserve access to you won't feel restricted by your boundaries. They'll feel safe inside them. They won't punish you for needing space or test how much they can get away with. And here's the part that's hard to accept. When you raise your standards, some people naturally fall away, especially when you have strong intuition. You feel the subtle imbalance. You sense someone benefiting from your loyalty more than they honour it. You notice that you're always the safe place, but rarely the supported one, because your intuition isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. And once you see clearly, you can't unsee it. So you limit access because your internal world deserves to be respected, not because you're better than them, but because you're no longer willing to shrink to keep them comfortable. And that loss can feel lonely, but it's peaceful. You become selective, intentional, and grounded. And with that, you start to see that not everyone deserves access to you. And the ones who do, they won't have to fight your boundaries. They'll honour them. Because access is a privilege, and you shouldn't offer it to someone who treats it casually. At some point, the most peaceful decision is not confrontation, it's limitation. Thank you for staying and listening. If this conversation resonated with you, you might also want to check out my other videos. If you'd like to support this space, you can like, comment and subscribe. It genuinely helps us reach other people who might be sitting with the same questions. If you enjoy my content and would like to support the channel, you can leave a little tip via the PayPal link in the description. And if you want to be here for the next conversation, you can turn on notifications. Your support doesn't just help the channel grow, it reminds me that I'm not the only one thinking about these things quietly, and that matters more than you know. Sending you all so much love. Until next time, keep becoming.